There is a version of the broken that doesn't look broken from the outside. The bills are still getting paid. The smile still shows up when it needs to. The prayers are still happening, mostly. But something inside stopped responding. And you don't know how to explain that to anyone because even you don't fully understand what happened. That is not weakness. That is not a spiritual failure. That's the human experience of breaking. And almost nobody talks about it, honestly. Here's what makes breaking so disorienting: it doesn't just hurt, it produces a conclusion, and the conclusion is almost always the same. If God cared, this wouldn't be happening. Or, if I had more faith, this wouldn't be happening. Or, the quietest version, the one people don't say out loud, maybe I was wrong about all of it. And here's what that logic feels so convincing when you are inside it. Because from a purely experimental standpoint, God feels absent. Not theoretically absent, actually absent. No clear voice, no obvious intervention, no sudden shift in circumstances. And when what you feel is, I'm alone in this, your brain doesn't treat that as a feeling, treats it as a fact. But there is a question I want to press on today. Is what you feel always an accurate report of what is real? Because there is a structural claim in Scripture, not a comfort verse, not a motivational line, a structural claim about what God does specifically when people are broken. And it contradicts everything the feeling is telling you. Psalm 34, verse 18. One verse, but I want to sit it in, because the depth of what is being said here is almost always missed when this verse gets quoted. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. The word translated close here, in the original Hebrew, it's qarov. It doesn't mean near in a passive distance sense. It means near in proximity, actively near, present near, the way a person leans in, not away. And the word translated broken-hearted, the literal image is a shattered vessel, something that has been fractured beyond the ability to hold its original form. So the verse is not saying God will eventually show up for the people who are struggling. It is saying God is specifically, actively drawn toward a precise state of fracture, not the strong, not the performance, the broken thing. And then the second half of the verse, save those who are crushed in spirit. That word crush in Hebrew is dakka. It means ground down, pulverized, not just sad, structurally diminished. And God saves that person, not after they recover, not after they demonstrate enough faith to get back up in the state of crushing, which means, and hear this carefully, your breaking is not pushing God away. According to the architecture of this text, your breaking is pulling God toward you. The church often presents faith as the thing that keeps you standing. But Psalm 34:18 presents something harder and truer. That nearness is not triggered by your standing. It's triggered by your breaking. The breaking is not the evidence of his absence. It may be the very condition that possesses you for his closest presence. Now look at Psalm 46 verse 1. This was written during a season of national catastrophe. The context is not metaphorical difficulty. It is real, documented crisis. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. The phrase ever present help in trouble. The Hebrew here is nimsa meal, very found, found abundant. The idea is not that God is reluctantly available in hard times. The idea is that in hard times you find more of God than any other point. Not less, more. The trouble doesn't diminish his presence. The trouble makes his presence findable in a way that comfort never requires. I want to name something that is easy to miss. Because most people in a breaking season are not asking the wrong question. They are asking the right question with a wrong assumption baked in. The question is, where is God? The assumption underneath is, God's presence will feel like relief. And that assumption is what needs to be challenged. Because the scripture does not promise that God's presence removes difficulty. It promises that God's presence accompanies you through it. So I want to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with yourself before answering it. When you say God feels absent right now, are you saying that because you have no evidence of His presence? Or are you saying it because His presence isn't producing the outcome you expected? Because those are two completely different statements. One is an honest report of experience. The other is a theological conclusion built on a definition of presence that the scripture never actually gives you. There is a version of faith, and it's one many of us were taught without realizing it, that functions like a transaction. I trust God, God performs. I pray, God answers in a way I define. I follow, life cooperates. And when that transaction breaks down, the conclusion feels obvious. Something is wrong with the relationship. But Jesus never once described following Him as a transaction. He described it as a cross, something that costs, something that requires surrender into an outcome you can't control. There is a kind of waiting that looks like trust from the outside, but it's actually avoidance from the inside. It uses the language of faith to justify paralysis. I'm waiting on God, when what do we need is, I'm waiting for God to make this feel safe before I believe He's actually here. That is not trust. That is a condition you place on God's presence, and it will keep you from finding Him in the very place He is closest to you. The broken person who says, God, I cannot feel you, and I am choosing to believe in you here anyway. That's one of the most theologically advanced acts of faith in the entire Bible. Job did it. David did it in Psalms that read like honest arguments with God, not polished worship songs. That kind of faith is not passive. It is not comfortable. It is not clean, but it's the kind that survives. Isaiah 43, verse 2. I want to read this carefully because the comfort here is not the comfort most people expect. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burnt. The flames will not set you ablaze. Notice what God does not say. He does not say, I will remove the waters. He does not say, I will prevent the rivers. He does not say, you will never walk through fire. He says, when you do, I will be with you. The water will not sweep you away. The fire will not consume you. The difficulty is present. The promise is the presence inside the difficulty, not removal of it. And then there is 2 Corinthians 4 verses 8 and 9. Paul is writing this from inside suffering. This is not theory. He is describing his actual life. We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Persecuted, but not abandoned. Struck down, but not destroyed. 4 times Paul names the worst version of what he is experiencing, and 4 times he draws a line. this far, but not past this line. Hard pressed, but not crushed. Perplexed, but not in despair. Struck down, but not destroyed. This is not a man who is unaffected by suffering. This is a man whose suffering is real, documented, and ongoing, and who has found a presence inside it that sets a boundary on what it can actually do to him. The breaking has a limit, not because the difficulty is small, because the God inside the difficulty is greater than what the difficulty can ultimately accomplish. So if you are in a breaking season right now, if something in your life has fractured, if hope is harder to access than it used to be, if your prayers feel like they are not reaching anyone, I'm not going to tell you, it is fine. It is not fine. I'm not going to tell you, just trust God. That sentence without the depth of what the trust actually looks like is not enough for where you are. What I'm going to tell you is this. The God of Psalm 34 specifically draws near to the broken things, not as an observer, as a presence that is more available in the fracture than it was in the stability. The God of Isaiah 43 does not reroute you around the water. He steps into the water with you. On the pile of 2 Corinthians, beaten, imprisoned, shipwrecked, abandoned by people, that man found something in the middle of it that could not be manufactured in comfort. You are not too broken for God to be near you. You are not too far gone for His presence to find you. And the very place where you feel most alone may be, if the scripture is telling the truth, the place where He is closest. God is not waiting for you to recover before He shows up. He is already in the breaking. If that question is still with you, the next video goes deeper, because when you are broken and God feels silent at the same time, that's when faith is tested at its absolute limit. That video is called Why God Doesn't Answer Some Prayers, and it's gonna be on the channel next week. Faith isn't fragile, it's forged in fire.